We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to dive into nitty-gritty details about the Cybertruck's leaked interior image, which some random Twitter account just happened to find access to. Someone who is driving this truck is probably getting fired, but hey, this is just what I've been telling Tesla for a long time. Update the website with some more production-ready specs, because this is really not how you're supposed to unveil your production model, but when you've got like thousands of people working on something, it's hard to keep a secret, so yeah, we're gonna dive into this information anyway. Even though they probably shouldn't have done it, now it's out there, we can't ignore it, so let's dive into the Cybertruck woke. There's good news and bad news surrounding this redesigned approach, combining the attributes of the steering yoke with the steering wheel. The first one is this definitely confirms the Cybertruck will not be using any gear stalks, because now we can finally see all the capacitive buttons, similar to the Model S and X, but not identical. On the left side, it does look pretty similar. You got your left and right blinker and your high beams, but where it gets interesting is on the right side. This time they stored about 4 buttons, most of which are pretty standard, like your microphone button for voice commands, your windshield wiper button, your cruise control / autopilot button, but there also appears to be a different one. You know, both the Model S and X, whether you go for the yoke or not, tend to have a horn button. I'm not entirely sure, the picture's not super high resolution, what icon that is. My best bet is it looks like an answer phone call button. It definitely doesn't look like the traditional horn icons. So because that's supposed to be something you can quickly access, my guess and my hope is that the Cybertruck actually lets you honk the horn like a normal car. You just push in the center, which everybody has been asking for ever since they refreshed the Model S and X. Like, let's not literally reinvent the wheel here. You should just be able to push in the center and it honks the horn. Model S and X haven't had that for a while, but it seems at least like the Cybertruck might have it. So depending on who you are, I would assume this is overall good news, but personally, based on the way I use my vehicle, I really wish a lot of those capacitive buttons could be rerouted to different things. Like, I hardly ever answer phone calls in the car because I'm just not a phone call kind of person. I also rarely use the voice commands in the first place, so I appreciate the horn being in the center, but the more and more I'm hearing people complain, especially on my recent video diving into all the Project Highland leaks, it's making me more and more hesitant to this idea of relying for the display and capacitive buttons in replacement for just traditional gear stalks. I feel like there's something simple and elegant to just reaching around behind the yoke or the wheel and just pushing down on a few paddles. There's something you can feel for rather than look for, especially if you look at like the prototype Roadster. I thought there was a really elegant and minimal way to do gear stalks. I'm all in favor of reducing parts and reducing complexity, but in my opinion, adding more and more buttons to the wheel that probably aren't remappable doesn't really feel like the best part is no parts. It just feels like you're kind of moving the problems from behind the wheel to in front of the wheel. I'd rather have the gear stalk approach, but that's just me. Let me know what you guys would prefer. The other thing we can tell from this image is the lack of floor mats. Tesla, come on, it's a pickup truck. People should get some floor mats with these things. But I know, I'm not being fair. It's a prototype. Let's talk about the display for a second. According to Matthew DR, who has proven to be somewhat accurate because of his interviews with Tesla executives, he's claiming this is the largest display ever in a Tesla, which is over 18 inches. And to see it in its full glory is quite cool, but what I gotta admit is somewhat disappointing is the software itself. You know, when they officially unveiled the Cybertruck back in 2019, they showcased this super high-res custom, like, different angular approach to mapping, and you had this whole cyber aesthetic on the display. It did not look like other Teslas, but this one seems, I guess, very software-wise efficient. Like, it's very, very similar to all of our existing Teslas. You just have the basic icons, the standard maps, and the dock at the bottom, which is missing a bunch of things, of course, because this is a pre-production prototype. But I'm hoping this is just a template, because I really, really enjoyed the software concept that they showcased at the Cybertruck unveiling, and I hope that makes it into production. But if we're basing it off of production-ready Cybertrucks showing up outside the factory, that code definitely just seems like take, you know, your typical Model S and X code, put in the Cybertruck assets, and then call it a day. And there's not too much to be revealed. Yeah, there's an open button for the frunk, but all Teslas have that. That doesn't necessarily confirm that it's a powered frunk, although it probably is. Also, I'm not sure if it's just the warping of the angle of whoever took this picture, but it feels like the screen screen is pivoted downward quite a bit. Like, it doesn't feel like it's at the right angle looking up at you that you would be in if you were driving the vehicle. Maybe that's just a distortion problem. But also, getting this perspective from the driver's seat showcases how big the dash is. Like, from where the display is to where the steering yoke is, genuinely feels like there's probably 2.5 feet before you reach the end of the windshield. I'd rather put some solar cells up there, like Aptera style. I know they wouldn't charge the car or anything, but at least power some of the infotainment and HVAC. I don't know, it just feels kind of wasted to have all that space up there. It just feels super wide because I guess this is just one of the biggest Teslas ever made. But moving more towards the armrest, I really appreciate and enjoy accommodating for like a garage style door opener that looks very similar to the Vault, you know, bed cover. So there's some design symmetry there. I thought that was a real nice touch. And unlike Model 3s and Ys, and even S's and X's, it feels a lot more open between the driver and passenger seats. There's that full pass-through, and it seems some extra plastic if you want to store stuff under there. So frontal storage space is probably going to be very good. The only issue I could see that I'm sure is already ticking off a lot of you with this new design is it essentially confirms, yes, the Cybertruck is still going to be a 5-seater. It looks like there's no way to fold up that center armrest and make it into a 6-seater. My guess is that's likely because of safety reasons. When you've got a giant 18-inch display there's just not a good way to have frontal airbags for that middle seat passenger. So if you really don't care about safety and really want a 6th passenger in your Cybertruck, I would just say sit in the bed. You know, it's not going to be safe in there, but you weren't going to be safe in the front row either. So I wouldn't do that personally, but I can understand why Tesla decided against it. And the other downside of this design choice of having that whole, you know, pass-through option is it feels like with the Cybertruck, there likely won't be as good a position to put your phone. A lot of us are accustomed to having wireless charging in our electric vehicles, and you just get in and drop your phone right beneath the display and it starts charging. And if you need anything, you know, the phone is just right there. With this setup, I don't know, maybe if they roll up that garage door in the middle, there's a few slots for your phone to slide into, but that's just going to be in your way. And I imagine behind that garage door opener, there's likely just cup holders. I don't think there's going to be a ton of room for cups and wireless charging for the phone. So they probably have to get a little bit creative with it, but that's just one minor annoyance that I think other Teslas you typically wouldn't have to worry about that with the Cybertruck you might have to be a little bit concerned about. And the other thing that still makes me laugh is Elon on Twitter keeps telling everyone the Cybertruck mirrors are really easy to remove. We have to deliver them with mirrors, but it's legal for owners to take them off and drive without them. That will improve your efficiency because you'll be more aerodynamic and everything. And I like that aspect of not requiring the side view mirrors, but this interior definitely, because there's no driver display and no side displays of any kind, means that if we're just relying on the traditional landscape 18-inch display, I'm not sure if there's going to be a great way to replace having that constant video feed, which in my opinion is important if you're ditching side view mirrors, because yeah, you know, the cameras pop up when you signal on a Tesla. I'm aware of that. I've been driving one for a while now, but there's a lot of times where you want to check your side view mirrors and you don't necessarily want to activate your blinkers. And sure, you can open the camera app on the dock and see in your blind spots, but that's going to cover up your navigation. So I don't see that as a very long-term permanent solution. I'd be very curious if there's a way via software to have those blind spot cameras available at all times, and then I think I'd be more comfortable dropping the mirrors entirely. But at least with this current interior build, I don't think it's going to be that easy to have great visibility around the Cybertruck, even if Tesla makes it very easy for the mirrors to be removed. This is something that in Europe, the vehicles that ditch the mirrors have interior cabin cameras that are always showing you your blind spots in replacement of those mirrors. That's what Aptera is doing with the driver display behind the yoke. It's just always showing you what's going on behind you. So I'm all in favor of ditching side view mirrors because they're adding a lot of drag to our vehicles, decreasing our range, and I think range is a really important factor with the Cybertruck. But I think interior wise, you kind of have to have a good solution to replace it. And maybe because the Cybertruck display is so massive, you know, over 18 inches, there might be a smart, intuitive way to have a constant view feed of your blind spot cameras, which are built into the front wheel fenders. And there's some way you can still view your navigation, but they only got one display in this thing. So I think it's going to be kind of tricky. But overall, what do you guys think of this leaked interior? Do you think there's still some changes Tesla needs to make? Or because Tesla is allegedly starting production next month, they kind of have to lock it in now and start producing it, and that means not too many changes can be made. Let me know all those thoughts down in the comments below, and thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. Have an excellent rest of your day.